Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you if you're watching this. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Talk Podcast. I almost forgot our name for a second, man. I'm low-key cooked, but it's okay. So today we're going to kind of be talking about like finding balance within like everyday life with Nick here. And we're also going to be talking about how to like deal with having God inside that like heavily packed life and just with involving him in like your daily aspects when you're like swamped with school and sports and different things like that. But I'm gonna let him take it away and let him introduce himself.
What's going on? My name's Nick Yanchuk. I'm on the football team here, and recently I just started going to Bible studies. We started last semester, and we've been growing ever since. We started off with like 4 or 5 guys. Now we're up to 20, and yesterday was actually 30. So God's working on campus, and it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So how long have you been doing football?
Football, probably like 9 years, probably.
9 years. Okay.
Yeah, probably like 9 or 8.
So what is that, like middle school?
Yeah, I started in 4th grade.
Okay.
And then, yeah, it's 4th grade I started. So like now it's year like 9, I think.
Okay. Nah, that's awesome. So yeah, let's honestly just jump straight into it. So like, how do you find, like, I know you're a sophomore in college now, like compared to last year versus this year, like, is the finding balance within like everyday life and stuff, like with athletics and like going to class and different things like that, is that like easier going into this year versus last year? And like kind of what were the major differences for you like with that, like, time management? It
was definitely a huge adjustment last year, moving away from home, and kind of just being on my own. So like the school aspect last year was school from 7:45 to like 2:45, and then football after that. And then now it's football in the morning and then school after. Yeah. So I know it's student athlete, but in my day, the sports always come before school.
Oh yeah.
So I just have to really, time management is so important. Like, because there's so many meetings throughout the day, and like we're supposed to end at 11, but there's always more film, more meetings you can go to get better. So figuring out a balance is definitely the first couple weeks of understanding your schedule. Like when I first started out, I was going to classes like right after football, and then I was taking a nap, and then I would go to study hall. Like learning to kind of get rid of those naps and like focus on each, like, I guess, hour that you have is so important. Like I guess you can take days off, but the time that you have and are given is so important. You only get a certain amount of time in a day. So it's just utilizing your time wisely and using every advantage to get better. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree with that. I feel like for me, like, I mean, I'm a sophomore as well now. Like with track, we don't have as demanding of a schedule as y'all, like with having to go to film and extra things like that, but it's still like class all day and then go to practice and lift right after, and then you're doing that the whole week, and then a meet every weekend, meet or game. So it's like I did the same thing as you. I finish class, take a nap, go to another class, and then like for me, I guess though, the importance was again finding that balance as soon as I got to school. And then after, I like dialed back and I started to get into the naps and stuff. But it was like get ahead those first couple weeks, so therefore I can set myself up for the future and stuff like that. And especially as you said, like, I mean, like student athlete first. Like sometimes, like I would love to be the athlete student, but it's just, you know, if honestly, like I'm not a big school person. I just kind of do what is like, I guess, not bare minimum per se, but like somewhat like I don't try to my fullest potential in school because I more so look at the athletic portion. I guess. And I feel like that's the only thing I could still balance out some more. But overall, it's just still like time management for me, I think.
For sure, And I feel like talking to your teachers is so important. Like building that relationship with your professor, like first day, like you have to go to them and say, hey, introduce yourself. I'm on sports team such and such. Like So like they understand the value like of time, like of like a student athlete. So they'll work with you like if you're overwhelmed in class, or if you like come late to a class because of a sport, if you have like an event or a meeting. They understand that. So as long as you and your teacher are on like the same basis, then usually you won't have a hard time in a class. But, I mean, sometimes you'll have teachers who don't care that you're a student athlete, and they'll treat you just like a normal student, like no special treatment or anything like that, which is totally fine. But at the same time, it just could be overwhelming for you.
No, for sure. What do you think is like the hardest part about finding that balance in your everyday life, or like what has it been for you specifically?
Probably sleep, because school and athletics is so demanding. Definitely having a good night's rest and not taking naps is a huge thing, or finding that time to take naps, because I feel like if you're too tired if you go through practice and you're really exhausted, the last thing you want to do is study or go to class. And I know it's such a hard thing, or it's like kind of an easy thing to do, just go to class, but it can be so draining where you really have to take recovery like seriously. For me, like that was definitely an adjustment of knowing myself and my body and how it works to be able to, I guess, just go to class every day not tired, and kind of having that sense to learn and like open up.
I think it's like I think I'd say honestly probably about the same for me, except that's what I'm struggling more with now. Like before, I guess last year I was really good on, if I have this amount of time between two classes, I'm gonna get this other assignment done, so therefore like I'm good tomorrow and I don't have to like stress, and I can just kind of live. But it's like this year, I guess I'm more lenient because I know that I don't get homework like every single day compared to last year. So it's like I have large gaps, but it's also now then I end up finding myself in that like crunch time and trying to do homework like 3 hours before it's due or something like that, and I'm kind of stressing about that. But I think that's the biggest thing for me, honestly, like just sleep, as you could say. Like sleep is important. If you're not getting your sleep, get your sleep. At least you don't gotta do 25 to 10 or 12 hours a day, bro, but like at least 7 to 8, bro. The doctors don't be tripping about that. I'm not gonna
But just talking about how like the balance, like you said, getting ahead of work. Like if you have like a study hall, if you have like days off within the week, like try to hammer out that workload. Because like I know, for example, I had microeconomics class on Wednesday and I forgot to do the homework on Tuesday. So like Tuesday night, it was like 11 o'clock, it was due at 12. So I had an hour to do like a 30-minute homework assignment. So trying to get that out days in advance is definitely a huge way to help the work balance.
So like within that kind of everyday balance, like how do you find that you're able to keep like God a part of it? And I guess I'll answer that in like two portions, like compared to last year and then versus this year, like how has that evolution gone for you?
So for me, I usually try to open up my day with prayer, just to include him, just thank you, and just pray for the day ahead. Like usually open end with a prayer, or if anything in the day that I seem hard, I usually try to open up like the Bible app, try to read like the daily Bible verse, maybe look up a scripture. Or recently I downloaded, it's called like Bible Chat. It's like an AI for like the Bible, so you can ask it like anything. So you can like ask it anything and it'll just like respond with like a detailed explanation. So if there's anything in my life, or if I'm like facing any like temptations or anything like that, I'll ask it about it, and then it'll kind of like help me guide through that. So just trying to include stuff like that. Really just the Bible app, kind of just trying to, if I'm in class or if I'm coming out of a meeting or something like that, if I'm tired or like anxious about something, try to.
That's awesome. Like, how do you think, like, if you were to tell somebody to, I guess, like, what's one simple way that you could say that you could give to somebody to like get them closer to God, or like what's like one simple step that you think like somebody could start with?
I think just taking the time within a day to thank God. So if you start acknowledging God, then you'll start to know him. So once you start acknowledging, I think you definitely start to know him, because once you start acknowledging them, it'll become part of your daily routine,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'll start. I feel like then you'll start to read the Bible,
Yeah.
and when you start to read the Bible, that's when you really start picking up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like for me, especially like throughout my journey with God, I think it's just been trying not to be so, I guess, lukewarm. And I think like, have you like heard the term like being a lukewarm Christian? Like
Yeah.
essentially, like I feel like that's kind of where I was because I didn't feel that connection with God, and I didn't know how to necessarily like keep talking even though I didn't hear anything back.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like that's the hardest battle for like it was definitely hard for me, but then like others too. Like it felt like you talking to a wall at points, you know. And I think now I'm definitely better at it because I find myself just praying like again as you said like just throughout little points in the day and just really acknowledging God way more. And for me, I think specifically like last year I was heavy on reading, trying to read scripture every morning and stuff, and then always that prayer like when I woke up, because I think for me I had an importance of when I got to college I didn't want to lose that connection, if anything strengthen it, because I knew as you said before, you're on your own. Like it's not like you could easily like you could call your parents, but still where are you from originally?
From Mass.
Okay, yeah. So again, it's not like it's close, but still, like your parents, I doubt they want to be coming up here like every single weekend to try to help you get through things.
Yeah.
You know, it's realistically, it's nice knowing that you got somebody like right on your side that you can, you know, let your problems go to and give them away and give that stress. So I guess that was a big emphasis for me coming to school. But yeah, I guess I wanted to ask, like, have you ever been a lukewarm Christian yourself, or like how have you kind of stayed, you know, I guess outside of that per se?
Yeah, so in high school, I kind of enjoyed myself a little bit.
Yeah.
And kind of like in the spring going into the summer, so after like I kind of graduated, and then I started going to church.
Yeah.
Because of my friend's mom. She said that he could come out with us if I went to church the next day.
Yeah.
So that's how it kind of all started.
Yeah.
Shout out to my friend's mom.
Yeah.
But that's how it all started. That's how it all started. Like,
yeah.
So ever since then, I just started going to church, and I started to become a little more so. And then when I kind of got to college, at the start, I kind of became kind of lukewarm. Like, I kind of opened up back up to like a lifestyle of kind of like sin and temptation. So
yeah, for sure.
It kind of took me a little bit. Some guys on the team, they went to church and to Bible studies, and they invited me, so I went over to their house, and it kind of like started to change a little bit. But yeah, I think it's just being a lukewarm Christian is having to get back to your foundation. So it's really about the foundation that you're building on. So as long as you're continually trying to have Jesus a part of your life, I think that's a huge part of it. Because if you don't have a firm foundation, then it's kind of you're kind of just floating. So, I mean, I floated for a while, so I understand what it's like, and just I guess praying is definitely a good place to start. And then once you pray, try to involve yourself with other people in like a certain type of community, like a Christian community. Just like try to get people like-minded, try to get you back on track. Yeah,
I think I definitely agree with that. I think it simply starts with like prayer, and then just literally setting aside that time to acknowledge God and like the little things around life. Like for me, I think again like the hardest portion, as I said, was talking, and again like it felt like I was talking to a wall at other times, but now I'm realizing sometimes not having an answer is an answer. Because if God were to give you everything at an instant, like as soon as you prayed for it, like you wouldn't be able to appreciate life. You wouldn't be able to appreciate like the value in anything. And I think that's important, because without like value, then you feel empty.
Yeah.
I feel like. And I guess, how would you say that you're able to keep yourself pushing even though in those times, again, as I said, like you feel like you're talking to a wall per se? And like, how do you grow like that connection, you know?
I'm gonna go back to what I said, like building a firm foundation of prayer, and I think reading the Bible is really important, because that is the Word of God. If you want to talk to God or hear from Him, you can directly hear from like the Bible. So I feel like it's his life. Like his word comes to life, and it's kind of like all the perspectives of that. And I think if you're really struggling, then I say read the Bible and take time to try to decipher it a little bit, because it can be confusing. Like reading the Bible is not an easy thing to do. Like you can kind of check it off your list and kind of read it every day, but not really acknowledge it. So if you try to like acknowledge the words and understand it, then you'll kind of build that foundation and then build that relationship. Because I know it's been hard for me, like the past couple months, of praying and kind of not getting an answer like directly or as soon as possible. Sometimes God will put you in places that you prayed for that you can't see. So like you can be at a certain place in your life that you prayed for months ago and you don't realize it.
Yeah, I think for me, like it's now I'm realizing like all the things that I have prayed for are coming up, and I'm trying to specifically in these times like lean on God more, because now I'm at a better point in life to where I'm realizing again God is doing all this, and it's not like he was just, I guess, like a backup character in my life, and you know, it wasn't just a wall. Like through everything that's happening, that's him talking back to me and giving me, you know, like that again. Like I'll go back to a point of, I think I was talking to somebody about this, like you pray for patience, he's gonna give you a test to be patient. It's not gonna come immediately. So like that whole test is from God, and realizing now that like everything that happens, it's from him, and it's not that God's ever trying to like spite you or like harm you per se. Like it's just a lesson, and that's literally what it is, you know. But touching back on reading the Bible aspect, where would you recommend people to start, like for, I guess, just kind of getting introduced to the Bible and that find it kind of hard? Because for me, I guess like reading the Bible, I do kind of find it hard, but it's also, I've kind of like just jumped around, and that's how I attacked it. Like one place for me, I started with my name. Like that was the book of Joshua, and mainly because for me, when I was younger, my mom always just kind of like preached like the understanding of who Joshua was in the Bible. So really, I guess getting that understanding for me as I'm growing in God to understand like my true mission for, you know, him in general.
Yeah. So I would recommend starting in the gospel. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Just because that's just like the eyewitnesses of Jesus and kind of who he was as a person. Like definitely the New Testament just describes his life and what he went through. So like the Old Testament kind of like foresees that and kind of like puts the promises of what God is supposed to do, and Jesus kind of like lives in those words of coming back and living out what God is. So I feel like definitely starting off with the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and just understanding Jesus and who he was, and kind of being able to relate yourself, because people picture God as this almighty, like outside force, external force that you can't relate to, but he came down as Jesus to be able to relate to us on that connection, to build that relationship. Like we can relate to Jesus through, he had temptations, he went through hardships in life, and his faith was tested. So as our faith is always tested every day, we can just relate back to the gospel and understand what those temptations were and how to exceed them and how to beat them and how to become like a better person in Christ.
I like that. I think I heard somebody talking one day, or I was watching a video or something. They essentially said like the only difference between like Jesus and us was Jesus was still faced with all those different temptations and stuff that we have dealt with in like everyday life, but he didn't sin. And that's the only difference. But there's people in the Bible that have sinned, and then he shows us, again, as you said, the eyewitnesses of Jesus. Like there's many murderers, killers, different things like that in the Bible, and people that have had faced these sins, but they still found their way back to God. And essentially, like it's really deep when you kind of look at it in a holistic view, because like once you fully understand that, and like I think that'll help you kind of step outside of that lukewarm phase, because then it gives you a greater, I guess, acceptance for who God is as a whole, and it helps you want to lean into Him more and stuff like that. But yeah. Do you have any final things to say on this specific topic?
I mean, it doesn't really matter kind of like who you are, where you came from. Like, Jesus is kind of there for you, and it's an outlet where you can build your life around. And if you're in a hardship or if you're experiencing loss, there's a reason for that. And the reason is that Jesus is testing you. He's testing who you are as a person and what you're capable of, so then you can become a better person. So I always feel like no matter what you're going through, like, it's always greener on the other side. Like, there's a reason for everything, and I feel like Jesus is forming our lives. And if you're just nervous, or if you're wondering what to do with your life, just turn your life to Jesus, and I think you'll be surprised at the way it turns out.
Yeah. And I think I said it in like a different podcast. I think like some of the very valuable questions that like you should ask yourself like on a daily, and specifically like when trying to grow with God, like, who are you, who do you want to be, and where do you want to end up, essentially. Like, and I think that can go towards anything, like, and it helps to be that driving factor. And specifically, like, even going back to our first specific topic of just daily life, like, where are you at right now in your regular schedule? How do you want to get to that, as you say, pro level? So now, like, how do I organize my day in this specific manner? And that doesn't mean that you have to be lacking of sleep or you can't ever take a nap or nothing like that.
Yeah.
But it's just, again, building those little skills incrementally and just getting better incrementally. And especially as we talk about, like, the topic of being a lukewarm Christian, like, it's not going to happen overnight. Your connection's not going to automatically build the next day. Like, that's not the reality of any situation that you're going to be in. But you still have to, again, go through the process and take those little increments step by step to get better. And I think that's the importance of wanting to get better for yourself. And you have to want it yourself, because God already opened the door. Now you just got to walk through it. You know? And I think that's the biggest thing that you have to understand. But you know, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Thank you for watching another episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, go subscribe. If you're watching this on... you wouldn't be watching this on anything else. Then if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, go tap in with YouTube. But we are on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. You know, I'm an all platform type of man. Have a good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever type of time of day. I can't even talk. Whatever time of day it is, enjoy it, or time of night, enjoy it, or thank you for watching.